6:24 in Trinidad and Tobago. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday. Let's move into our discussion this morning, because I'm sure you've heard the thing as well about the only constant being change. But it's the nature of change and the ever-changing circumstances surrounding the coronavirus pandemic, and how suddenly it has happened has resulted in an immediate switch in our daily routines, personal relationships, workflow, family life, just about everything else, forced to adapt to the regulations, social distancing, can't find a doubles vendor for weeks. What are some tips to help us deal with our changing environment? We're joined now by Kelly McFarlane, clinical and organizational psychologist. Very appropriate that she's also an organizational psychologist. Ms. McFarlane, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Can you help us organize our lives in the midst of all this change?
I hope I can. I'll certainly try.
All right. well, I suppose, as I said, change is inevitable. But I think the issue with COVID and COVID-19 is that so much has happened so quickly. And we are now being forced to recognize that this is not a temporary thing. This is probably how it's going to be for quite some time. How do you get your mind around that?
Well, as you said, the only constant is change. And I think one of the first things we have to understand and accept is that our environment is ever-changing. Technology is ever-changing. The economy is ever-changing. And these things depend on us to sort of move these changes along and to get these changes going. And I think accepting that and understanding that and even just realizing that is very important. And we talked about the whole, the organizational side of my work. And, so just like that with organizations, even if we look and we take example from some of the biggest organizations, like let's say Apple, Facebook, Instagram, these organizations have given us great examples of how their success comes from always changing, constantly being creative, constantly pushing the limits. And they have changed the way we see the world, the colors that our eyes adjust to. They've given us things that we don't even know we want. And if we look back at, let's say, phones or any technology, anything that we use in 2000, and we look now, we see how much change has occurred. Now, you rightfully said it's a lot of change that's happening really quickly. And sometimes that is what creates a little discomfort. Humans love permanence. Our brains like the feeling of permanence because it's predictable. And we've evolved to feel safe by knowing what's going to happen, knowing the things that affect our safety, knowing how it's going to change, if it's going to change, what it's going to do to us. So when we have a rapid, quick, big change, our brains now interpret that as a threat, because now I have this big challenge to move away from what I'm accustomed to and from my safety, knowing exactly how I'm going to protect myself, to start to figure it all out. So the point I'm making now is that creativity, acceptance, and just kind of being open-minded to some of this change is very important.
I want us to talk about the business side of things in a little while, because we know a lot more businesses will be opening tomorrow. And indeed, we were having a discussion just a little while ago before we actually came on air. Which business place had the best sink? Which place have hand dryer? Which place have enough soap and all of that, and putting things in place? That is part of the discussion now. Who getting the more plastic sinks to put all on the outside of the place and so on. But we'll talk about that whole business organizational framework in a moment. At the personal level, you use the word accept. How difficult is it for a person to accept, especially if they are stuck in their ways, they don't like change, to accept that things are different now? You hear some people saying, why are you not wearing a mask? But me wearing a mask, now this thing covering my face and all that other stuff. I ain't seeing nobody sick around me. Why do I wear a mask for? How difficult is it for some people, obviously not all, for some people to come around to the recognition that some things need to be changed, whether for health reasons, whether for logistical reasons, whether for sensible reasons? Why is it so difficult for some people just to want to accept change and move along with it?
even before major change, even before the pandemic, we've got people who have one different life experiences. But also, if we categorize, let's say for now, two people, there are people who love challenge, who love variety, who are happy to always be ever changing, and then you have people who prefer the status quo, who get comfortable, who like their permanence, who like their predictability. So when they're pushed into a situation like this, and by pushed I mean the environment, it's not anybody that's pushing us. But when suddenly a major change happens, these people handle things differently. So you may find that the one who is comfortable with the status quo, that person now feels a lot. You might see feelings of anger. Why things have to be like this? Why do I have to change? What am I supposed to do? Because they feel very overwhelmed by change and by having to be out of their comfort zone. Whereas you might find the person who is a lot more flexible and open in their daily life or just in the way that they think, they may take this on as a challenge, and the adrenaline might just take them fly, and they may just totally embrace a major change really quickly and really adapt really easily. I remember when the quarantine measures and stuff were just starting, when the pandemic had just sort of reached our shores. I was at the grocery, and from the time you walk in the grocery, you can feel this adrenaline. And if you observe, well, I observed the difference in how people were sort of coping with that. There were people who were looking worried and scurrying about. And then I remember in particular, I was in a line, because the lines were down the aisle, and I was in a line, and there was this gentleman who was busy everywhere, and he couldn't find something. Maybe it was toilet paper, and he stopped and he said, "That's okay, no, I will live like a soldier." Laugh and he smiled, and he, the adrenaline is high on adrenaline. And I found that to be so interesting. I was like, I wasn't sure what he was preparing for, that he had to live like a soldier. But the point is that he now embraced this change, whereas you have other people who find it a lot harder to do. Now, the thing about people who find that harder to do, who prefer the status quo, one, it could be personality differences. It could be they feel safer just kind of having things being predictable. It could be an issue of temperament. It could be because people have had past trauma or past experiences that were really unpleasant, that are tied to change, that are tied to unpredictability. So people's lives, people's own personality traits, people's the things that they have, the resources that they have, the social supports that they have, the things that they have to worry more about, especially specific to coronavirus in terms of your age, your previous medical history, and all these things are all factors that would contribute to the differences we see in people's handling this pandemic.
And you've touched on so many different issues there. I mean, that spike at the very start of the thing, I mean, everybody rushing around. You couldn't find a spare roll of toilet paper nowhere. The way people were reacting, and it was kind of irrational. But I'm just wondering, Ms. McFarlane, if now that, we're on the downside of that spike, and people are coming to terms with a grim reality as far as their jobs, as far as their livelihood, as far as their income, and they've recognized that it's not going to get back to where it was. It's not, in fact, their job may not be there anymore. And this is the change that they are finding very, very difficult to come to terms with as far as their earning ability, not just for themselves and their family and so on. Do I have to change? Do I have to go back to school? Do I have to re-educate myself to make myself employable in a different situation, a different circumstance? If I'm not getting any sort of assistance either from the state or my employer and so on, I don't have a financial cushion to fall back on. So after the kind of exciting spike, it seems to be a slide towards, if not depression, a kind of serious kind of reality that maybe we weren't prepared for.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that these specific issues like that almost surpass what sort of mental health could do. So it will no doubt affect your mental health. There's no way it wouldn't. But we are looking here now at economic and social issues that are coming out of this. And without meeting, people being able to meet their basic needs, it's very difficult for them to experience good mental health. So we're talking about not being able to afford shelter. I mean, if you're unemployed, right, not being able to afford shelter, to afford food, to take care of your children if you have children. These are our core basic needs, and it's very, I wouldn't jump and pretend and say, oh, employ these psychological measures and be optimistic and all of these things. Quite frankly, if you're hungry, it's very difficult to feel happy. So at times like this now, we have to really get creative, not just the government, sure, yes, but also us as a society would have to come together. This is where humans have to start to be humane. And we see as much as we can help one another, whether it's financial, whether it's by doing food drives. And I'm very happy to see that a lot of people are doing that. Groups are coming together, and even individuals who can organizing, food and collecting water and so on, and trying to help, even if it's one or two families in your area in need, because it is difficult. It is hard to get up and you actually have nothing to feed your children. And, we also would want to look at those of us who can create jobs, who can create job opportunities or share job opportunities and so on, and sort of figure that out as we go along. And again, as I said before, this takes a lot of creativity, a lot of acceptance, a lot of will to just want to make things better, to want to go with the tide.
Is there a natural inclination to resist in some cases? The reason I bring that up is the whole issue of people trying to dodge around the regulations, to go party and to go lime in, the COVID parties, that sort of thing. I mean, people will find different ways to ease the tension, which was the song that we played from the Mighty Shadow at the start of the show. For example, my way of easing the tension is to crank up the waka and go in the yard and just cut down bush. That works for me, so at least I'm not in violation of any of the regulations in that regard. But is it something about our psyche? And I mean, I hesitate to use the word carnival mentality, but I'm just wondering if it is that because we're so accustomed to recreation in different forms, socializing in different forms, that we find it very difficult to limit that, and we will try to find ways to push the envelope in that regard.
Well, yes, sure, but also, our brains develop our own sort of individual and social gravity, and because change creates so much anxiety, you find that our brains tend to, at the first time that we can, return to that gravity, to that grounding, to that last time that we weren't anxious, to that last time that we felt comfortable. It takes any opportunity to do so. So that's why sometimes you might see people kind of loosening their measures a little too early, a little too soon, or getting a little too, feeling like they're invincible and so on. So, people want to feel normal again. That's the thing. And you mentioned sort of mental health and being sort of trying to cultivate that sort of peace, cultivate that sort of happiness, cultivate that feeling of normalness and that you had before. And yes, there are ways to do that. And I know that you hear a lot of psychologists talk about focusing on what you can control, and knowing that we are in a situation that we didn't cause, and that we can't control that it has happened, but we can control the way that we deal with it. So if hanging out and socializing helps you cope, great, that's fine. All you need to do now is possibly change the way that you hang out and socialize, not just to protect yourself, but to consider protecting other people, right? So, again, it takes a lot of flexibility for you to kind of see our way through this thing safely.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back in the time that we have available, we'll try to look at it from that business side of it, the organizational side of it, and how businesses and how business people operate with these challenges, with these changes, and indeed putting things in place, especially because from tomorrow we'll see some more businesses opening up as well. 6:39, we'll take a break and continue our dialogue with Ms. McFarlane. 6:42 in Trinidad and Tobago. Good to have you with us as we continue with our family-focused discussion with clinical and organizational psychologist Kelly McFarlane. Just about 5 minutes left, as I said, in our dialogue. And Ms. McFarlane, because we're seeing more and more business activity, more and more businesses opening up, the Prime Minister advanced the second phase, which is going to happen from tomorrow. From a business point of view, do you get a sense in your consultation, whether it's with clients or generally, that business that they are in a position and they are I wouldn't say eager, they are equipped to make the necessary changes to facilitate themselves, their staff, their customers, their work environment with all of the changes that are now required?
Well, even for organizations, because of how great the changes and how sudden the changes, it is a struggle. So you have organizations who are sort of kind of working things out in terms of returning to the workplace, who are having to look at their goods and quality of their goods as they get back into work. Into functioning and operating their organizations. And again, this varies from organization to organization. But I think at this time, the major focus does need to be sort of on reprioritizing and reassessing the environment, the economic environment that we are in, sort of people's needs changing, people's priorities changing, people's spending habits, the things that they buy, all of these things are changing. And so organizations now have to really emphasize some resilience. And I'm going to use the word creativity again because I love that word and it's so important, to meet their customers, meet their clients where they are, what they actually really need at this time. That is not always seamless and easy, especially on such a large scale. But I think, at least for us in Trinidad and Tobago, because we weren't sort of out of commission for as long as, let's say, places like Italy and China and so on. I think that our bounce back may be a bit easier, it's comparatively, but that doesn't mean that it won't be challenging. And then now organizations and companies also have to work with staff whose lives have changed, who have experienced trauma from being quarantined with certain people, or who have to figure out what they're going to do for childcare and all of these worries and these things, and people who have pre-existing medical conditions and feel like they aren't ready to go back out to it. So there will be many challenges, start kind of getting the wheel turning again, but, working with it.
And so it is a work in progress, and before time runs out on us, we just have a couple of minutes, in fact about a minute and a half. What is your final bit of advice? What would you like to leave with our viewers and listeners as to being able to help them cope with change?
Well, two things. One, I as I said before, really start opening your mind to the idea that change is inevitable. And while certainly this change has been drastic and rapid, it can be done and we can find that resilience. We just sort of need to pull out our coping tools. For some people, it will be easier than for others, and that's okay. Everybody's history is different. Everybody's resources are different. Everybody's social support, everybody's situation is different. So if you find yourself feeling really overwhelmed or feeling really down about things, it's normal, but try not to stay there. So that brings me to my second thing. So we want to find ways to build resilience and to cope. And sometimes just one quick strategy, just start listing first of all, what you're feeling. Am I angry? Am I anxious? Am I scared? Am I depressed? Am I worried? And then start to sort of flesh out, what am I anxious about? What am I scared about? Okay, now what can I do about that fear? Start finding solutions, making plans, contacting social supports, social networks, and once you start making plans and kind of figuring out your feelings, things will start to feel a lot better. And again, of course, I always say, if you are struggling quite a bit just emotionally, There is help available. There are free hotlines. I think the OPM has one, TTAP has one, and then we also have mental health professionals who, if you prefer to have private sessions, who are working online and will be there to support you.
Kelly McFarlane, thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us this morning and offer us some perspectives and some prescriptives in dealing with this ever-changing environment and indeed the suddenness in many respects of the COVID-19 situation and the realization that the impact of it is going to be with us for quite some time, even if as we appear to be winning the battle so far with the virus itself. 6:48 in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be back after this. In fact, what we're going to have as well is give you an image from Shireen Mahabir of Sangre Grande. It's the Buttercup